Welcome back, everybody. We are again at the Frontera Test Kitchen above Frontera Grill. We have a special guest today.
We do.
Kevin Hickey.
Kevin Hickey.
My
next door neighbor.
Your next door neighbor.
That's right.
Share a wall.
You are the chef partner for the Rocket Ranch Group.
That's right.
Your new restaurant is?
The Duck Inn.
The Duck Inn.
Now, how did you come up with that name?
It was my great-grandmother opened a bus stop diner on 35th and Ashland during the Depression called the Duck Inn.
Is that right?
Yeah, swear to God.
And Bridgeport.
Her picture's on the back of the menu.
Wow.
Of the original Duck Inn.
But this is not in the same location.
No, we're only about 8 or 9 blocks away.
That's what I thought. It was very close.
And this is about a 96-year-old bar.
Wow.
Bar and restaurant.
The kind of bar they'd serve kale in, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So kale was our subject today. Kale's our challenge.
And it's like kale,
kale,
more
yeah.
kale. Why did you choose kale
Well,
for us?
I thought because you see it a lot on menus. It's not, it's not trendy at all, right? Just like, sprouts. So tell me about kale. Is this something you guys like to work with? Do you have it on your menus?
I do love kale.
Yeah?
You know, I'm sorry.
See, that's the thing, is that I've loved kale since before it was the hot vegetable or green for us to use.
Absolutely.
I just love the flavor of it.
All right, so what are the rules? You get 15 minutes.
I have 15 minutes, 5 ingredients, plus the kale.
Yeah.
We don't count salt. We don't count oil. Are you ready to jump in and make a dish?
Okay.
Let's do it.
So Matt, our producer, is going to set the clock. 15 minutes begins now.
All right, let's do this.
We've got a couple different types of kale, looks like, right?
Yeah, we got all this. Oh, he grabbed all the stuff I was going to grab too, but I think
I'm the
there's
guest.
enough.
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Oh, well, this is the black kale, the lacinato kale, and I love it for the texture of it, and I also love the deep, rich flavor. But all the stuff is good. It's just frillier. I don't know.
So
I think lacinato kale is one of the reasons kale's become so popular.
I agree.
Yeah.
Once farmers started growing this, it's a little more tender. It's a little softer. It doesn't look like the kind of stuff that they used to, decorate buffets with.
That's
exactly
exactly
what I
right.
think the buffet decorations.
You think of flowering kale, and stuff, which actually doesn't taste that great.
No, it
lacinato
doesn't.
Kale is delicious.
That's the one
Great
to eat,
texture.
I
Okay,
think.
so I got to remind people, if they're going to be watching us now on our YouTube channel, they can also listen to this podcast at the Feed Podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. But if you're only listening to us, please come over to YouTube, the Feed Podcast, and watch us here.
You can watch us.
You can watch us. So what are you working on? What's your strategy?
I'm going straight for a lot of garlic to begin with here, and I'm going to make a kind of rustic black bean soup with kale and a little goat cheese that's going to go on the top of it.
And Kevin, what's your strategy?
I'm taking a classic side dish, cream spinach, and turning it a little bit.
Oh, right.
With kale instead of spinach. And
Now, is this something like what you would put on the menu at Duck Inn?
this is actually on the menu.
All right.
Bottlefork.
Bottlefork, which is the next door
Very
neighbor
nice.
restaurant.
Next door.
Okay.
But it has elements from Duck Inn. We're going to top it, rather than topping it with the usual hen egg, we're going to top it with a duck egg.
Explain
cool,
what you're
cool.
doing, though. What are you doing over there, Kevin?
I'm cleaning the kale, taking the stems off, which is a really quick and easy thing to do.
You're just pulling down along
I
the
just
stem?
you grab the stem at the base and you pull down, and it slides right off.
Rick is
The kale's
chopping up
not
some.
great.
Rick's got some garlic, some fresh garlic.
Yeah, I've sliced it all first.
Okay.
And now I'm doing the rock and chop across it to mince it real finely.
Kevin continues to trim the kale over there. That's pretty
Well,
much
I'm
what he's
picking
been
more
doing.
kale because it's going to cook down quite a bit. And one of the unique things I like to do with it is once I've made the cream kale, I like to puree half of it.
Oh, okay.
nice.
Fold it
Does
back in so it's creamy, but it still has some nice texture.
Does it wilt, though, like spinach?
Not as quickly and easily, no.
Okay. So Rick is
gotta-
now putting
you
his
gotta
garlic
cook
into a
it.
pot.
I got a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pot, and I've got some beans that are already cooked. You could do this with canned beans, but since I work in a restaurant that cooks a lot of beans, I'm going to start off here by blending some. These are black beans, just regular black beans that have been simmered for a couple of hours until they're really tender and kind of creamy on the inside. I'm going to take some of the black bean broth and a little of the black beans, put that into a blender jar with my favorite ingredient.
Here they go, folks. You knew it was coming. The canned chipotles in adobo.
Here
Did you know that, Kevin? Your next door neighbor. One of his favorite crutches, the canned chipotles in adobo.
There
call it
are
crutch, but
always
it's
cans
good.
of that in my kitchen.
Oh, see, I've got
All
somebody
right.
else.
That's a great,
as
that's a
much
great
as I do.
shortcut.
Okay.
We'll see if he uses a microwave in a little bit,
Smoke
folks. With
it.
these
No, I'm actually
steaming.
not
That's
going to do
harsh.
that
That's
today. Okay, so I'm going to put Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do one and a little bit of the canning liquid because I'm not going to be making too much of this here.
But real quickly, the black beans you have in this bowl,
Yes.
would they buy them in a can, or you're saying you get the dry beans and soak them first like this?
Well, well, this is soaked and simmered.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you could buy is just buy cans of beans and make this same dish.
Okay.
And that would make it go super fast.
Okay, so the blender, you've got a little bit of that liquid plus the chipotle.
And so a few of the beans that are in there, and that's going to be blended until it's completely creamy. And then we've got our garlic over here that's, well, it's just now about very aromatic, starting to get a little bit of brown.
I want to jump over to Kevin because you just got something on the stove. What do you have over there, Kevin?
Wild boar bacon.
Wild boar
Oh,
bacon.
right.
Okay. And you just chopped it up into cubes, it looks
Yeah,
like?
we just chop it up into lardons. We're going to render off the fat, so then we don't have to introduce any other ingredients. So we'll use the fat to cook the shallots, the garlic, and then the kale, and then we'll also use the fat from the bacon to fry up the eggs.
But again, it doesn't have to be wild boar for folks who couldn't
doesn't.
find it. You
No.
could just use a bacon. It should be a smoked bacon or...
I would do a smoked bacon.
A smoked
you want
bacon.
that flavor.
Okay. Okay, so Rick, I'm sorry,
Okay.
you added some of...
So that blended black bean and chipotle mixture went into the sautéed garlic, and the aromas are getting to be really delicious smelling over here because we just allowed that garlic to cook long enough for it to release its aroma and just get the slightest hint of brown.
We're a third of the way through. We've got 10 minutes to go. And Rick now is going to be ladling in a little bit more of the beans.
Now I'm going to, yes, the beans and their broth, because I want this to be a kind of hearty and rustic black bean soup.
And I'm going to just walk over here to see what Kevin is doing now. You're adding something else to...
We're adding some shallots.
Okay, just
Finely
chopped shallots?
chopped shallots,
Yep.
finely minced garlic.
Now, how do you know when you've cooked this bacon enough? Is the fat rendering off of it?
Yeah, when it starts to get a little crisp.
Crispy, okay.
Yeah,
right.
I've got a decent amount of fat coming off of it.
Okay, Rick's got his lacinato kale that you're just chopping. Now, you didn't trim this, did you?
I didn't, because I like the texture of that rib that's in the middle of the kale leaf.
Okay.
So I just cut it all up together.
Yeah, very important to point out, there is a big difference here. That we talked about earlier, that the sort of the buffet garnish kale, that is not what you're using. You're using the lacinato.
I'm using the lacinato, or
Okay.
sometimes called dinosaur kale.
That's what I've seen, dinosaur
Dinosaur kale.
Okay.
Or black kale.
Black
or
kale.
Black kale.
Tuscan kale.
Tuscan
All interchangeable?
Well,
Yeah,
they're all the same
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, so I've got this thing simmering away over here, and I want to give it a little taste because I want to see where I am with the spiciness of it and how much garlic I put in there.
Now, that noise I just heard was a little bit of oil popping. You've got some oil and a skillet also that you're heating up?
I do, because I'm going to make a little crispy tortilla garnish to go on the top of
Okay.
it.
8 minutes to
And
go, by the way, Kevin.
What
Thank you.
I better get these
Get the
things
tortillas
fried.
going. 8 minutes to go. Kevin has just transferred a bunch of that kale now, that lacinato / black / dinosaur kale, into your saute pan with the shallots, garlic, and lardons of bacon. Beautiful.
Okay.
It smells really good in here, folks, too, by the way, I should point out.
I would hope so.
Yes. A little salt and pepper over there. And so that's going to wilt, but not as much as spinach.
Well, it'll wilt down to get very, very soft, but
Yep.
it will take considerably longer than spinach does.
Okay. Oh, here comes a little bit of flavor boost.
A little bit.
Heavy cream. Kind of eyeballing it there. What do you got? Half a cup?
I'd
to a
say
cup?
3.4 ounces.
3.4 ounces. Okay. Now, Rick's.
I'm
what have you
starting to fry some little crispy tortilla strips here.
Okay.
I'm going to turn the temperature up a little bit.
is more,
I
by the
just
way?
have about 3/4 of an inch of oil in a small skillet here, and add the little tortilla strips. So this is just corn tortilla, the kind that you could buy in a grocery store. And I'm going to let them fry until they're very crispy.
done? Less than 5 minutes. All right, so the egg you're going to do at the very last minute?
The egg will be the last thing I do.
Okay.
Once I get the kale cooked to a point that I feel it's tender enough, then I'll blend up a little bit of it.
Okay.
Pour it back in, gives it a really creamy texture, great bright green
And
color.
a bright green color is what I
Yeah.
would imagine.
4
That
minutes?
sounds like a really great thing.
4 minutes to go.
Okay.
Rick is removing some of his kale. He's got a little
yes,
heavy on the
A
kale.
little heavy on the kale there.
Okay.
I got a little excited about the kale.
I
I've
get you
got
a little crispy
Yes,
tortillas
please
here.
help
Ooh.
yourself to one
Uh-huh.
there. And I'm going to go like this.
So this is like a a Tuesday, Wednesday night soup you're going to do
Yeah.
at home, really super casual.
Right. And I'm going to put in it some goat cheese. You could put any kind of cheese that you happen to have on hand that's going to be bright tasting. That's kind of what I would like for this particular dish.
So that looks beautiful, by the way.
I will be
You just took a
making
little
it.
bit and you pureed that.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful color.
Yeah, about a third of it.
Okay. And why did you do that again? Just to give it a
Well,
different...
again, because you did mention, is it going to be like spinach? Is it going to be like spinach? And it really never will be. And when you make a great cream spinach, you really cook it down and it really gets a very creamy texture all on its own. Kale won't really do that unless you cook it for hours.
Okay.
But
Good,
so we
okay.
both use the same technique. I blended a little bit of the beans with the bean cooking liquid to add creaminess. He blended some of his kale with the cream to add that same sort of creaminess to it.
I think people either think it's got to be a blended thing, like a soup or a sauce, or not. And you're saying both
No,
of you
both of us use the
blend a
exact
little.
same technique to add some richness of texture to the finished dish without just making it all about cream or something.
Absolutely. I do that a lot with soups and so forth. Like
Me
if you do
too.
a kale or like a lentil soup.
Yes.
You want to taste the lentils and everything, but it's nice to take a little bit, blend it, pour
Blend
it
it,
back
move
in.
it back
Yeah.
in.
Really rich flavor, great texture.
You've just added 2 eggs now to a little skillet, and those are just going to get cooked to those. They're set, it looks like, probably. You've got about a minute to go, guys.
Okay.
Do you think you can plate now in about a minute?
Yeah.
This is the same kind of garnish you do on like a sopa azteca, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah,
same
it's
kind of
crispy. I love these.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, now
Kevin,
then
how you
just
doing?
Great.
Break up the goat cheese over the top of it here.
30 seconds to go.
I can't steal anything from
You
him
can't
because
steal
I
anything
don't
from
know
him,
what
no,
I could use
unless
some of that bacon, I guess. I
Go
don't
right
see
ahead.
Yeah, eggs are going on. Look at him. So
Beautiful.
cool under pressure. And he's done, and Rick is going to just put a little bit of kale, is that for garnish?
Yeah, why not?
Beautiful. And time.
Okay, there
Well
we
done,
go.
guys.
Phew.
Well done.
Okay, there
well
we go.
done. All right.
All made it.
All right.
Congratulations.
We'll stop there.
Congratulations, sir.
Okay, time to taste. We
Yes.
do our guests first, usually.
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
so we'll hand me a spoon, please.
Sure. One thing when you serve it, I like to
Mix it?
break up the egg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Mix it throughout so you get the richness of the yolk.
Oh, you have to see this, folks. If you're listening to us on iTunes or SoundCloud or Stitcher, please come to the YouTube channel, The Feed Podcast, and look at the video because we have 2 very different looking dishes here. One very extremely vibrant green, Kevin's, and then this beautiful sort of goat cheese dotted soup that Rick has got. So I'm going to go in here with
Now,
some.
when you broke the yolk in there, my mouth started watering like I could hardly even talk.
We do that table side. We bring it up to the table.
nice.
It looks just like that, and then we break up the yolk.
That's
in front of the
delicious.
guest.
Oh, I love the contrast with textures because I kept thinking like, how is he going to do a wilted kale? It's going to be all sort of the similar texture, but you've got that creamy richness,
Oh, yeah.
helped by a little bit of bacon fat.
Bacon
bacon,
fat, and some
yeah.
cream. But I have to say, it tastes like bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
all this other stuff around it. Man,
Oh, that's
that
delicious.
is good.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead. You want to hear?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Help yourself. I'm going to take a little bit and get some of the kale and some of the black beans.
Delicious.
See, this would be the antidote to that.
That would be. I like
I
that.
love the whole beans and greens kind of concept. You know?
It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
So
especially
satisfying.
for, you want something in the middle of the winter, and you want it to be soul satisfying, but still get your vegetables in there. This is the kind of thing I make.
The very slightest amount of the chipotle. You only had one, right?
Yeah,
one
it's
or
I
two?
put one in there. It's not
One,
very
not
hot.
hot at all. No, this is fantastic.
But
Chipotle-
it's smoky.
Yeah,
You
so
know, you
okay,
get the
this is what you like.
smokiness of it. Yeah.
So the recipes, of course, are going to be on our Facebook page,
Right.
The Feed Podcast. We'll probably throw them up on our YouTube as well, but be sure to check us out on YouTube, The Feed Podcast, and go see Kevin Hickey at Bottlefork or the Duck Inn in Bridgeport.
Yep.
Kevin, thanks so much.
A hot new neighbor.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.